Welcome to Math with Mrs. Bibb. Today we will be discussing how to graph linear functions, what rate of change is, and how that relates to slope. First thing we're going to do is graph by making a table. We're going to use the equation negative 2x minus 3 equals y. Negative 2x minus 3 equals y. We are going to make a table. We're going to put x values in the first column, and we'll choose 4. And then we're going to put the expression in this column. And we're going to find the value of y, and then we're going to write that as an ordered pair. One thing to remember is, despite the values that we choose to go here, and I did not mean to draw that, so I'll undo it. Despite the values that we choose to put in for x, there's an infinite amount of values that will work for x. The ones that I choose, you could choose different ones, and it would still work. My standard ones to go to are -1, 0, 1, and 2. I like to have a number on the negative side. I like to figure out what's happening at 0, what the y-intercept is, and then I like to use 1 and 2, a couple numbers on the other side. So I want you to have at least 4 values. You're going to substitute -2 in for x, then 0 in for x, 1 in for x, and 2 in for x. And these values that we get will be our y values. So let's go ahead and start. -2 times -1 minus 3 is +2 minus 3, which is -1. If you want to draw lines there so you can have a separation, then you're perfectly welcome to do that. Let me go ahead and draw mine before I start writing. That way I don't have a bunch of crooked lines like the first one. Then I'm going to substitute 0 in. -2 times 0 is 0, minus 3 is -3. Substitute +1 in. -2 times 1 is -2, minus 3 is -5. Substitute +2 in. -2 times +2 minus 3, -4 minus 3 is -7. Now my ordered pairs, your x is -1, your y is -1. The second one, x is 0, y is -3. The third one, when x is 1, y is -5. And then the last one, when x is 2, y is -7. And then we're going to draw a graph. And I'm going to plot those points. I'm going to plot -1, -1, and put a dot. And 0, 1, 2, 3, and put a dot. And oops, look, I went the wrong way. I knew I went the wrong way when I looked at the next ordered pair. It's 1, -5. So I went to +3, not -3. -1, -2, -3, put a dot. Then at +1, it's -5. -3, -4, -5, and line that up. And then at +2, it's -7, -6, -7. And then try your best to draw that line that goes through those 4 points. We connect the dots here because at the beginning, when I started on this example, I said, remember, there's an infinite amount of values that we could put in for x and get values for y. So you should connect the dots when you're drawing the graph of a linear equation. For example 2, it says to choose the appropriate domain values, and the reason is The equation looks like this. Y equals 1/4 x plus 3. So when I am substituting in for x, I want to use values that will make it easier for me to find the answer relatively quickly. Now let me tell you what that means. We're going to substitute in for x. So I want to put values here that are multiples of 4, because when I multiply a value by 1/4, it will reduce and make an integer or a whole number. So I'm going to use -4, 0, +4, and +8. Those are all multiples of 4. So that's what it means by choose an appropriate domain value, or choose appropriate domain values. You want to choose values that when you substitute them in, it makes it really simple to evaluate to find y. So I'm going to put -4 in. -4 times 1/4 is -1. Let me show you quickly how I knew that. This 4 and this 4 would reduce away and leave a 1, and 1 times -1 is -1. Then I'm going to add 3 to that, and that answers 2. For the second one, 1/4 times 0 plus 3 is going to be 0 plus 3, so that answers 3. Then the next one, 1/4 times 4 plus 3 would be +1 plus 3, so the answer is 4. And then 1/4 times 8 plus 3. 4 and 8 reduce and leave a 2. So 4 and 8 reduce and leave a 2. So it'd be 1/1 times 2/1, which is +2, plus 3, which is 5. So the ordered pairs are -4, 2, 0, 3, 4, 4, 8, 5. And I am going to graph those ordered pairs. -4, +2. -1, -2, -3, -4, +2. Line it up. 0, 3. 0, 1, 2, 3. 4, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. So 4, 4. And then 8, 5. So starting from the origin, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And then go up to 5. So it's going to be there. And then connect the dots the best you can. I would use a ruler is what I would use. And then that would be the equation of the line y equals 1/4 x plus 3 using an appropriate domain. For the next thing, I want to talk about, if you have y equals a, what does that look like? What does that tell you? Well, this is slope-intercept form. Let me undo that. Y equals mx plus b. But you don't see an x. That means that the slope, or m, is 0. And when you graph it, it's always a horizontal line. So y equals -6. When I graph y equals -6, -1, -2, -3, -4, -5, -6. Y equals -6 is that red horizontal line. And then for x equals a, it is not in slope-intercept form, and you cannot write it in slope-intercept form. The slope is undefined for this kind of line. And there's always a vertical line. It's always a vertical line when graphed. Something else, I didn't write it down, but something else is that you do not have a y-intercept when you have x equals a. So let me draw an example. X equals -5. -1, -2, -3, -4, -5 for the x. And it's a vertical line. So that would be the equation of x equals -5. And then this one will be the equation of y equals -6. For example 3, we're going to graph two different equations. We're going to graph y equals -4, and we're also going to graph x equals 4. So the slope here is 0, the y-intercept is -4. -1, -2, -3, -4. It's always a horizontal line. So this one is graphed in blue. Y equals -4. And then the second one, this one will be graphed in yellow. The slope is undefined, which means it's a vertical line. The y-intercept, there is not one. So I go to +4, 1, 2, 3, 4, and draw a vertical line. That would be x equals 4. It's a vertical line. Example 4, we're going to graph using the intercepts. -x plus 2y equals 8. So I'm going to graph those using the intercepts. The x-intercept is where y equals 0. The y-intercept is where x equals 0. Write yourself a note over here on the side. Substitute 0 into original equation. And how do you know where to substitute 0? You know based on what I wrote. Y is 0 for the x-intercept. X is 0 for the y-intercept. So for the x-intercept, y is equal to 0. -x plus 2 times 0 equals 8. -x equals +8. Divide by -1, x equals -8. That's the x-intercept. And then the y-intercept is where x is 0. So negative times 0 plus 2y equals 8. This will go away. 2y equals 8. Divide by 2. Y equals 4. So the y-intercept is +4. That's what that looks like. Rate of change. That definition is how a quantity is changing with respect to a change in another quantity Now for this example, it says find the rate of change of the function by using 2 points from the table. So the change in y over the change in x. The rate of change is the change in y over the change in x. This is the Greek letter delta, and in mathematics it means change, the change in y over the change in x. So if you see that, then that's what that means. We're doing the change in pancakes over the change in flour. So when you have a table, how is this changing? How is your y value changing? You are adding 12. So 12 would be in my numerator. And if you were showing work, you would want to make sure to write down that adding 12 for your y, and then the same thing for your x. What's happening for the amount of flour, you're adding 2. So the change in y over the change in x, which would be 6 over 1. So this means you have six pancakes for each cup of flour. That's the rate of change for example 5. Example 6. The Jackson High School Student Council budget varies based on the fundraising of the previous year. For part A, we're going to find the rate of change for 2000 to 2005 and describe its meaning in the context of the situation. So 2000 to 2005. What is my rate changing? So this is just a little bit different. As I look at this, I am doing the change in budget. That's our Y. The Y is the budget in dollars. Over the change in time. So this one isn't quite as easy as the last one. So how is this changing? In 2005, it is 1675. And in 2000, it's 1350. And that rate you find by subtracting. And then in 2005 minus 2000, that's your change in your years. So I'm going to have 325 is what you get when you do 1675 minus 1350. You get 325. And then the change in years is 5. And then when you divide that out, you will get $65 per year. So I'm going to answer that with the complete sentence. The rate of change for 2000 to 2005 is $65 per year. That is my final answer for this question. The rate of change for 2000 to 2005 is $65 per year. Then it says, find the rate of change for 2010 to 2015. Describe its context, its meaning in the context of the situation. So the change in budget from 2010 is 1,550. I'm going to subtract from it 1,325. And my years I'm going to use, my years I'm going to use 2015 to 2010. So that will be 5. And then when I subtract those, I get negative 225. So that will be negative 45. Now, what does this mean in the context of this situation? This means that the budget was reduced by $225 over 5 years. Oops. My brain was thinking ahead. Reduced by $225 over 5 years, which would be $45 per year. A reduction, I should say. A reduction of $45 per year. Next, we'll talk about a linear function. If you have a linear function, that linear function has a constant rate of change. It has a constant rate of change. So if you have a table, you've got that constant rate of change. Slope. Slope is defined by the rate of change in the y-coordinates for the corresponding change in the x-coordinates. So we're going to write that. The slope is the rate of change in the y-coordinates, and you will hear that referred to as the rise. For the corresponding change in x-coordinates, that's called your run for points on the line. If you are given 2 points, x sub 1, x sub 2, x sub 1, y sub 1, and x sub 2, y sub 2, then to find the slope, you do the second y minus the first y divided by the second x minus the first x. That's how you find slope given a set of ordered pairs. We are going to find the slope. I'm going to go back and write the slope formula. So for letter A, we are going to find the slope for 2 points that are given, and those 2 points are negative 3, 4, and 1, 7. So we're going to use that formula. Slope equals y2 minus y1 divided by x2 minus x1. So that leaves me 7 minus 4 is 3, and 1 minus negative 3 is positive 4, and the slope is positive 3/4. For letter B, the slope for these two ordered pairs, negative 1, 3, and 4, 1, will be the change in y. So I will do y2 minus y1 divided by x2 minus x1. 1 minus 3 is negative 2. 4 minus negative 1 is positive 5. So negative 2/5 is the slope for letter B. Letter C, I've got two ordered pairs, negative 3, 4, and negative 3, negative 2. So my slope will be the change in y, negative 2 minus 4, divided by the change in x, negative 3 minus negative 3. Negative 2 minus 4 is negative 6. Negative 3 minus negative 3, that is 0. So that means rise 6 runs 0 to the left. Rise 6 runs 0 to the left. Rise 6 runs 0 to the left. And hopefully you realize that's a vertical line. I'll go ahead and write that. And a vertical line has an undefined slope. For letter D, we're going to do negative 2, negative 5, and 4, negative 5. So my slope is going to be y2 minus y1 divided by x2 minus x1. So negative 5 minus 5 is 0. 4 minus negative 2 is positive 6. So I have 0 divided by 6, which is 0. So that means my slope is 0. It's not undefined, it is 0. 0 divided by 6 is 0. That is a horizontal line because the slope is 0. For number 9, we're going to use this formula, m equals y sub 2 minus y sub 1 divided by x sub 2 minus x sub 1. I want you to remember this is x sub 1, this is y sub 1. This is x sub 2, this is y sub 2, and this is your slope. So 3/4 is going to equal y sub 2 is r minus 5 over 4, that's x sub 2 minus x sub 1. Now let's work that out. So 3 over 4 equals r minus 5 over 8. Multiply, cross multiply, don't forget that. Remember you are doing these two, and then you're doing these two. 3 times 8 is 24. That equals 4 times r minus 5. Now I will distribute the 4, so 24 will equal 4r minus 20. Then I would add 20 to both sides. So 44 would equal 4r. Divide both sides by 4, r will equal 11. That will be my final answer for that question. Have a great evening.